Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the Unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We got another wonderful show here. So, first thing that I want to do is talk about my Unfiltered crew first and foremost, because they're always here helping me out, and I do want to show them. And even though this is a little bit behind, they never show their pictures up, but I want to go ahead and show them before I do anything else, because they're the ones that actually make things work in the background. And you may see some blank spots here because they're busy working and actually getting people to jump on the show. So let me show that real quick. This is the Unfiltered crew back here in the background. It always show that little message to switch the actual volume, but these are the folks that actually in the background helping me. Actually, the one that's showing up, Tracy, she always is helping other folks. I don't know why Mecca and Maria's not there. And then we got a few people that are on vacation and stuff like that, but they actually help me with the show all the time. So thank you. The first thing I'm going to ask everybody to do is like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. I never say that in the beginning, so I'm saying it in the beginning right now. Like and subscribe. So please do that. We have a wonderful show ahead for you, and I think we want to do something a little bit different today, move in a slightly different direction. But one of the things that I do want to do is I want to have that quick Black History moment, and it's not going to even be a history moment. It's going to be just a simple statement, and I'm not going to go beyond that simple statement. I talked about, Carter G. Woodson first. Okay, great. Black History Month, good guy to talk about. I next talked about my guy, Major Taylor. I have my picture here, but I don't know where my picture's at. But the first guy to win, the black guy to win the bicycle rides in terms of the cycling competitions in 1899. Then, on President's Day, I actually talked about Obama, okay? And just gave you a quick thing about Obama and the fact that I met him. There's one group of people that I haven't talked about. Okay, and this one group of people have been in the news a whole lot, but I have to mention them as a group because they are so very important. And that is Black women. For all of these movements that we have ever had, Black women have been really the foundation of all these movements. Okay, in probably the most popular, focal point this year was probably Stacey Abrams, and how Stacey Abrams lost the gubernatorial race, and actually 2 years ago just kind of put it in her heart to change what was happening in Georgia, and probably not the only one of the catalysts that actually helped to flip Georgia blue, also to help win those 2 seats in terms of the Senate, I do believe. So extremely important in terms of what she's done. But if you go back, it doesn't matter. There's always been this major support, and women always standing to the forefront of making these things happen. And we want to at least I want to tip my hat to all Black women that have made all of these movements happen in some kind of way, whether it's in the churches that they're involved in or supporting the men that they kind of push to the forefront. But in today's world, it is a wonderful thing seeing more and more actually be in the front, right? The Black Lives Matter movement. if I'm correct, it's 3 black women, right? When you look at our vice president, right? Black woman, right? So you just pick them and they are there, period. Go to any church and you'll find them, right? So realistically, my hats go off because without them, most of these movements absolutely would not happen. No question. They wouldn't happen. Now, I had a question that someone asked, and I want to just go ahead and jump into that question. And we won't bring this person on because they just asked a question. And I'm going to bring this question up. And it'll be the place that we will get started today. And then we'll talk about something other than that. But I want to start off with this question. And I know that they had this question. They've asked this question before. So I want to take a moment and deal with this question because she asked this question like 10 minutes ago in the chat. So I want to go ahead and talk about this. I've been a manager in the healthcare industry for over a decade now. And how can I transition into a product owner? Well, that's a good question. My problem is that I don't know exactly what you're doing inside of the healthcare industry. So let's just divide that up and pick it apart for a second, okay? Now, the very easy answer is go get a job as a product owner. Transition done, okay? If you have domain knowledge in a particular area, let's just say, assume that you have some very specific domain knowledge in healthcare, and another organization or that organization needed some of that domain knowledge, bam. As long as somebody's willing to let you lead a product, you're officially a product owner. It really doesn't take much, but to be in a position of being the leader of a product and deciding the direction that that product is moving forward in. It doesn't really take much more than that, okay? Now, a lot of people will say to you, create a product. You can actually create a product, right? And if you create a product, it's your product. You lead that product in some direction. So that could be another place where you can go. What most people do is they go and get some training, okay? So now, let me assume, and I'm making a big assumption here. Let me assume you're a career changer, okay? And that you work in an area that's not related to product ownership, product management, or anything like that. Well, what I would do is start learning more about what I want to do in the future. Now, first statement is, go to bls.gov, look at the occupational occupational job outlook. And that normally will show you the next 10 years of what jobs will look like. Will it have something that's product owner? Well, look for product owner, product management, those kind of jobs, right? I will look at the outlook of any job before I jump in there because I want to know when I get to the other side, how much money I'm going to make. So when I talk to my daughters, my children, or even when I made my career change, I looked at bls.gov and the occupational job outlook or whatever it's called. I haven't looked at it in years. So I will start there. Now, once I decide that that's the place I want to go because it's my passion or because that's where the money is at, then I start building toward it. Let's start off with a simple place you can go. You can start off with Certified Scrum Product Owner, okay? Now, there are other product owner certifications that exist. Certified Scrum Product Owner happens to be the first. That would be a good place to start. Now, in terms of becoming a product owner in that class, we go from vision all the way down to writing 50 user stories, okay? But is that enough? Because the problem is you go into this class, and that class is just 2 days of gaining some knowledge and you get a certification. Is that going to be enough? Is that going to be enough for you to jump out there and do that job? I can't guarantee that. I have a product owner class coming up this Wednesday. Literally, coming up this Wednesday. Okay? Matter of fact, I got a couple things to tell you all about. I mean, I say guys because there's more than just guys here, right? But in terms of it, if I think about intangibles in terms of a product owner, The biggest intangible that I'm always missing in terms of being a product owner, and I've been a product owner like 3 times, I'm always missing domain knowledge. That is the classic thing that I'm missing. And the product owners that I know that do the job very well, I have some good friends that have been a product owner in one job, they go to another job, and guess what they are? Product owner in that same domain, okay? But just at another organization doing roughly the same thing because they're carrying that knowledge with them. And then they move on to another job and they're carrying that same knowledge with them. So for me, if you have some expertise and that can help build a product, then that's probably the direction that I would move forward in, okay? Having domain knowledge is probably the difference between being a good product owner and a great product owner. It's one of those classic differences. Now, another intangible in terms of being a product owner is being realistic. Having some understanding to some degree, not knowing exactly how to deliver, of what it takes for the development team to get things out the door. That helps you to be realistic in your thought process of what it takes to get the product out the door. I would also think to myself that as a product owner, and I'm going to switch things up a little bit here. I'm going to switch cameras for a second. As a product owner, there's a couple things that I need to deal with. One of the things I need to deal with is going to be, oh, that's the wrong color. It's going to be vision. Another thing that I need to deal with and understand is roadmaps. Another thing I need to understand and deal with is understanding releases. Also, sprints. I'm involved in all these things. I'm involved in every single one of them. When it comes to the vision, I own the vision. Well, let's just say you're given the vision. You're given the overall direction on where you have to go with the product. Even if you're given it, you're the steward of that vision. And you got to take them to that next place. Okay? The roadmap, high-level timeline. People will want to understand where you are moving forward with this product. Now, when you deal with these two things here, you are really dealing with the strategy of wherever that product is going. And I'm just going to put strat here just for the fun of it, right? So you're dealing with the strategy of where the product is going. Also, it would be nice to be able to decide release dates. It would be nice to have some idea of where the finances are going. That is going to be helpful. We'll be able to move forward in some direction with that. Okay? Now, also as a product owner, you're not only dealing with the strategy, you also got to deal with the other side of the equation. What it takes to tactically implement it, right? The tactical side. So that means the dates, helping whoever you're working with get things out the door. Also in terms of sprints, it's not that you go and you just drop off whatever you had there. You have a thought, you have an idea, you just go and drop it off to someone, right? No. In this world, you are also helping along the way. I don't mean that you're doing the actual work. By no stretch of the imagination do I want you to think that you're doing the actual work. But what you are doing is when you have that requirement, assuming that this is a requirement, this is stupid to be a requirement, but assuming this is a requirement, right? But you have that requirement, the development team's going to have some kind of question about it, right? They're likely going to need some clarification because it's hard to get requirements perfect, right? There's always some exchange that happens, right? A lot of times when we think about user stories, we think about the 3 C's, a concept, brought up way back in the day. Think Ron Jeffries wrote an article I don't know, man, 2004 maybe. And in that article, he talked about the 3 C's, right? A card, placeholder for a conversation. You write any confirmations on the back. Okay, put the card to the side, put the confirmations to the side, and let's just talk about the conversation. Because the exchange of that requirement, what goes into that requirement, any questions they have about that requirement, is what you're going to be dealing with from a day-to-day perspective. So when you jump into sprint planning, they may have a question or two. They may want to ask you a question or two, right? They may want to get clarification on those items. So having domain knowledge is actually going to be extremely helpful for you. It's going to be extremely helpful for you, Okay. So now, as I think to myself, I want to be a product owner, no problem. Having a domain knowledge is going to help. Having understanding what it takes to get there is going to help. Being able to proactively manage stakeholders while also being involved with those that are there to help you to deliver is going to be an important part of what you do as well. Okay? You all don't see my arrow going down, so I put it right there. It's going to be an important part of what you need to do moving forward. So I want you to think about how you're going to engage in these things, how you're going to engage in these things, what you're going to do in order to build that domain knowledge. Okay? Because it's not just one thing to say to yourself, hey, I just jump into that role and I'm good. No. You need to prepare yourself for that role. I can tell you in terms of Scrum, hey, know how to write user stories. It's very likely the teams that you work with, especially if you're doing any Scrum or Agile, will likely use a generally accepted Scrum practice called user stories. So knowing that kind of stuff, knowing how to do the format of that is pretty simple. But forgetting on the format of that for a second, right? What would be more important for you to know that I believe would be how to split those things, how to divide those things into smaller pieces, right? Okay, now let me back up for a second. When I say split, I'm saying slice. Let me back up for a second. When I say slice, I am saying to you to divide things into smaller pieces. Understand, terminology we might use, split a story, slice a story. All I'm really saying is take something that is bigger and divide it into smaller pieces. So when it comes to being a product owner, I'm not extremely concerned about your ability to get in there if you have some domain knowledge. Having domain knowledge is going to be critical to how you move forward. But for a lot of people, it's just about getting that type of job, getting that type of role. And the best place to start off with any of those things is by building up your education. So the first place I would start if I'm brand new is building up that education and then taking that education and start fitting that into positions that I'm interested in. And that would be the next logical step. So the education is the way to go. It's the way most of us move toward anything. You want to be an accountant, you go take some accounting classes, maybe get a certification or degree, and you kind of move forward from there. So that being said, hopefully that gives you some idea. The problem that we always have with this show, which isn't a problem at all, but part of the reason why I did the call-in show was to have an exchange with you. Because a lot of times your question ends up with a few more questions that it will be easier for me to answer and get to the real question that you're trying to get at. And I want to be able to do that for you. So I'm going to say, Miss Walker, this is a good question for you to call in for. Okay? So on that note, I want to go ahead and move on. I have someone waiting in the green room. And so let's go ahead and shape ourselves up, get ourselves ready for the person that's in our green room so we can get ourselves started and ready to go here. Okay. So, boom, boom. Melon, I know you.
Devon, how are you, sir? I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm going to get on you. I'm going to get on you, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to get on you. Now, for everybody that knows, I know her. I know her. So tell me how you're doing, and before I get on you, you have a question or a thought. So tell me what you're thinking.
Okay. Well, you know me, obviously. I'm aspiring to be a Scrum Master. Completely very brand new, very nervous, unsure of myself. I enjoyed the training that I got from you. You actually inspired me even more. A little history. Where I work now, we are going through this reimagined phase where we're embracing agile and we're doing the Scrum XP things. So my personal team is on pre-activation. So they're really focusing on us understanding the new roles that they're introducing into the department. One of the roles obviously is Scrum Master, which is what I am trying to prepare myself for. Everybody is going to be having a training path where they're going to have to be at a certain level. There's certain competencies that need to be achieved. And my question to you is, I know that education is very important, but can you suggest or recommend certain soft skills that are just absolute gems that would really help me, that would support my my confidence shakiness, that I can really embrace right now and at the very beginning, so to give me some momentum? I know there are many, but are there some that really stick out to you that uh, I need to really polish and really shine there? That would help me.
All right, so let me start off in a very different place for you. Okay? Now, you work at a particular company. We won't name the company, but if I'm correct, I know the company, right? There are people at your company that are willing to help you.
Yes.
Because I've had them reach out to me. So you actually have people at your company that are doing Scrum already. So you're in a very fortunate place. And one of the good things that they have is they actually have Scrum Master meetings, Scrum Master roundtables.
Yes.
And they're willing to pull you into those things. So one of the great things that you have, and some of you all may have this, and this is really important. So let me just back up before I make my statement to you. Every time I walk into a company, usually I am the lone wolf. I'm the only one, or I'm the one that has the most knowledge, which means I am normally in a very lonely place. And the one thing that I don't have available to me, Melon, is support from other people. So if there was one thing that I could get you that I think would be most valuable for you, would be the support of a community of people. Not to give you any soft skills, but to be able, but to have someone there so you can lean on their shoulder when times get rough. So what I want you to do is to become a part of the community inside of the organization. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now,
I don't.
I'll hook you up if we talking about the same company. If I'm correct, and if you haven't left the company that you was at before, then I got somebody that's willing to have a conversation with you. Understand, people. Let me talk to the greater YouTube community. Look, y'all, if I have an idea who you are, where you work at, and I got other people to connect you with, I'm going to connect you. Because I don't want this to be a lonely journey for you, because it was a lonely journey for me. So why would I want to put you in that position if I run into people that can help you out? Does that make sense? So I want you to have a circle of people that you work with, and it isn't about you learning from them. You're going to learn tons from them. But what it's about is just having community. Community is probably the most valuable thing that you can have moving forward. That's always a plus, because you're going to have somebody as new as you, or close to being as new as you, that can remember how it felt to be as new as you. And the little tips that they will give you will help you along the way. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So, every time I go into an organization, I kid you not, one of the things that I create is an agile community. And I create it so then I can have shoulders to cry on. Because things will get rough, And you will get to the place, no matter where you're at, where you're not happy with anybody there. And you need some people to help you through those moments. Okay? And I want you to have people that can help you through those moments, if that makes any sense. Okay?
It does.
So this is a very important thing for you. Okay? Now, can we recommend all kinds of books? Yeah. There's a whole list of them, and we're supposed to put some books out there. Okay? But what would I say for you to actually do? I want you to think about reading Lisa Atkins' book, all about coaching agile teams. Now,
Lisa Atkins?
Yeah, Lisa Atkins, yeah. I need to make a list of books, and I'm gonna make sure you have that book. Do I have Lisa's book here? The reason why I mentioned Lisa is, one, she's a woman. Two, she's good people. I know her. Okay? I've known Lisa since 2005. Okay? And she gives really good advice. Really down to earth, good advice. Okay? So Lisa is a good place to go. Also, another thing that you can do, there's books that have nothing to do with Scrum whatsoever. Like, a problem that you will have is around conversations that you are having. So this one right here, well, which one do I say would be the better one? Well, this one right here, crucial confrontations, crucial conversations. These two.
Okay. Yeah.
I mention these all the time because they're a good read, but that's, depending on how fast you read, how much you want to read, that's a plus, right? There's a guy named Michael James who wrote a Scrum Master Toolkit checklist. And that Scrum Master checklist give you some beginning things that you should be thinking about as a Scrum Master. So look up, let's see, Michael James, Scrum Master checklist. Also, simple books that have nothing to do, not a lot to do with Scrum, but something to do with them, like this guy. This Joy book. Great guy. Actually created a company that uses all kinds of agile concepts, but doesn't necessarily talk agile specifically.
Okay.
Other than that, Richard Sheridan. Richard Sheridan. I've actually met him. He's another good guy, right? Okay. Now there are other books, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually I'm gonna make it a goal this week to create a list of books. Okay. And we're going to actually either put those books on Amazon or someplace else where we can have those books, so then people can go and grab those books and use them. Now, I'm going to talk to you from another perspective, because what I think would be good, and people need to, what I want you to do, one good community that exists is the community associated with the Scrum Alliance. You have a 2-year membership to the Scrum Alliance because you just got your certification not long ago. And one thing that happens is you can easily join Scrum Master groups like on LinkedIn. The Yahoo group, I don't know if that's super active right now, but there is a couple of them on LinkedIn. And I will make sure that I get you some of those actual groups. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Notice what I'm doing. You know what? Let me stop for a second. I know I don't say your name correct. Say your name to me. Because you let me slide with it. Meline.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes.
Meline. So Meline.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So I just feel like rude. My aunt used to let me call her Marshy. Her name is Marjorie, but she was letting me call her Marshy, just because I'm special. But I don't have to be special to get your name right. So, Meline. All right, so I got it. I'm gonna make sure I work on that. So,
no worries.
The idea though is I want you to work on community, and I want you to find people like you.
Okay. That'd be great.
right? Because there are tons
Yes.
of people like you. There are tons of people like you. So there are tons of women that have just gotten started in this and they have children and they got this life. They're starting a different career, moving down a different path. I mean, come on. I didn't start off in Scrum at all. I started off in doing in-home counseling. Okay? And so people come to this thing at their own pace, but the idea is that you have an advantage because you started. There's a lot of people that's just dreaming about it. There's a lot of people that didn't make the first step. You've made the first step. And do you actually have to go get a certification in this thing? You don't. All you have to do is read the Scrum guide, and you can do all the Scrum you want to do. Nothing prevents you from doing that. And remember, unfortunate for you, you didn't get a chance to see us build the call-in show. But for those that don't know, in order to build this call-in show, we actually use Scrum.
Yeah.
We actually use Scrum. And we got the videos from when we actually had the meetings that we had. And that's a good place for you to actually learn as well. It's just by coming to our events and meetings and seeing what we're doing on a regular basis. So
Right.
the other thing that you can do is when you find these people, start going to some conferences. These conferences, especially now in virtual world, they're not time consuming because you don't have to travel to a location.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But you're gonna have to make time for it. Because your
Right.
biggest problem is time, right? And so
Right.
you're gonna have to start carving out some time to be able to do this stuff. So, what kind of challenge can I put in front of you? I don't know. You was a part of both of my classes, CSM and
Right.
CSPO. And in one of those two classes, somebody asked me this question, I do believe, and you tell me if I'm correct or not. They asked me if they were starting brand new in Scrum, what would they do? Okay? And here's the story that I normally tell folks is use Scrum on you. I just
Right.
told that to my
Yep.
guy Victor not long ago. And I know that
Uh-huh.
I told it to you as well. But
Yes.
here's what I'm
And
going to
I've been
challenge you
doing
to
that.
do. One book a month is my challenge to you.
Okay.
One book a month.
Okay.
So we know about that other stuff that I tell you about to run Scrum on you. But I want you to
Yes.
read one book a month. Just one.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Now,
Yes.
there are always Stalworth books that exist, right? So you can start off with my boy Mike Cohn. Start off with Mike Cohn. Read his latest, then go to the earliest. Okay? Because his latest
Okay.
is more general. His earlier ones is about pointing, estimation, and then about user story. Don't start there. Start with the third one, right? Because the
Okay.
third one talks about teams in general and talk about just scaling a little bit and things like that. So I would start there, okay?
Okay.
And then what
Yeah.
I would say to you is if you go ahead and start reading a book a month,
Yeah.
that right there is going to position you where you are expanding your knowledge a little bit at a time.
Okay.
A little bit at a time. Okay? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to get overwhelmed by no stretch of the imagination. I don't want you to think that you're in some bad position. You're not. We
Yeah.
have this thing in open space where we talk about the fact that the right people that show up at that time are the right people to be there. And you've shown up at the right time for you in terms of this career. There is a movement for women. And that movement has been happening for the past few years. So take the spot that you've earned already and use it. Understand what I said? I said you've already earned your spot.
Okay.
Okay? You're already working with
Yes.
a company that's doing Scrum and actually has no problem with shaping you to become better than what you are. Take advantage of that. I went from having two teams to having a 200-person portfolio by doing that Scrum on myself type thing. You telling me you can't do that? You manage kids and everything else, you definitely can do that. That should be less of a problem, because kids are not adults. They don't understand as much as adults, but at least with adults, you can say, man, you getting paid. Shut up. With kids, it's just a different kind of problem, right? And so realistically, I just want you to just slowly. Now, by the end of this year, that means you will have read, let's just say, 9 to 10 books. That's a lot of knowledge. Remember that you are learning from other people by reading those books.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And you're learning the lessons that they've been through. Now, I will say, and I will agree, some of the lessons are dated in some of these books. But that's okay, because you don't have to apply all of them. It's just nice to know them. It's just nice to know them. Okay? So if you know those lessons, now you can start applying those things. Okay? Now, here's what I want to say to you. Here's what else I'm going to say to you that's important. I want you. Okay. So have you started a sprint yet?
At work or
at work?
Just myself.
At work.
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, in that sprint, without telling me what you're working on, do you have a sprint goal?
Yes.
Great. Is that sprint goal focused on getting some return on investment?
Yes.
Great. Now, I want every single sprint, when you have that sprint goal, figure out a small thing that you can try during that sprint goal that can help you test out one of these agile concepts. Does that make sense?
I hear your words, but no.
Okay, so let's just say this particular sprint. Could your team try, let's just pick this, test-driven development?
Like automation?
No, just test-driven development. Y'all passed test-driven development and you moved on to automation, right?
They're working on automation. Not everything is, but
okay. Now, here's
no,
the statement.
We have testing. Okay. Yes.
Guess what you don't know. You don't know enough about test-driven development.
No.
You don't know enough about extreme programming. So now your team.
No, I don't.
They're doing something that you don't know about. Anytime your team is doing something that you don't know about, it is your job to immediately go learn about it.
Okay.
Why do I say that to you? Because that concept is in a book.
Okay. They're doing, I got the book. I think I got the extreme. I know you mentioned that in class. We're doing Scrum XP. So is that Scrum and extreme programming?
This is extreme programming, right? Extreme programming.
Yes.
So XP.
Extreme. Yep. So I need to understand that.
This is the creator, right there. Right. Now, why am I saying run a small experiment? Because these are things that you need to experiment with.
Okay. All right.
There's nothing. Okay, so do you need to apply all these things in this book to try one of the concepts in this book? No. Okay. And so this is the stuff that when you hear something, you don't have that knowledge. You need to. Okay, so here's the deal, right? Me. If you came to me and there was something at your church that I did not know, guess what I'm going to do that evening? As soon as I walk away, I'm going to go get something and get some knowledge about it. Anytime there's something that I don't know, in 24 hours, I will know something about it. In 24 hours, I will be a book expert on it. You heard me say a book expert on it. because most people haven't read a book about it. And there's too much stuff available on the internet for you to be in the dark about anything. So
That's
anytime
true.
you don't know something, you put it in the Rolodex. For those people that don't know what the Rolodex is, just put it in your brain somewhere and save it. Write it in your fancy smartphone, right? So go ahead and Rolodex it, right? And if you Rolodex it and you go learn it, you have just increased your knowledge once again. So now I want you to be this sponge. And I want you to just think of this next year like you're a neophyte. You're looking for knowledge, you're looking for knowledge, you're looking for knowledge, and you're just trying to gain as much knowledge as you can. Because here's the thought process. The first, let's see, in 2005, I became a CSM, I became a PMP, a CSM, and the thing that I did was just kept seeking knowledge. Every place I go, I was digging for knowledge. Every step I made, I was digging for knowledge. If I was missing knowledge about writing, about building project plans in Microsoft Project, then I went to go learn about it. If I had a conversation with somebody and it was something about that conversation didn't work very well for me, guess what I do? I go figure out how I can make that conversation better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, in terms of a technique that I want you to grab onto, you wanted a technique that you can use. And
Yes.
there's a lot of things that fall under this technique. I want you to focus on active listening. Because active listening is going to help you, is going to springboard you to many other places. So when you start thinking about active listening, there's all kinds of things like summarizing things, paraphrasing things, reflecting things. There's all these things that come under the active listening umbrella. So if you think to yourself about active listening, you are going to position yourself to actually do way more. Way more. Because once you learn how to just listen, and the reason why I say that is because one of the problems that I have and that I've always had is that somebody may start off part of the conversation with you and then you jump and go in some direction and you take them in the wrong direction and then it's not good. So sometimes you just want to sit back and just listen, take in information, let people know that you're listening, because when you do that, you will build more trust with them. If there was one thing that I did early on that I probably don't do as much now, especially in training classes, it's much harder to do it in training classes because you're not having an exchange. But when I'm on the ground, the one thing that I'm doing a lot of is listening and making sure that people know that I've heard them. Now, why do I say that? Because probably the number one technique that worked for me when I was an intern at Disney, and I had a member of my fraternity actually say this to me. He told me about active listening, and the one thing that I did when I was at Disney is that they let me, I don't know why they let me walk into the headquarters or whatever, and I was asking people in their offices questions. And the one thing that I kept doing was reflecting back and listening just to their story. And normally if they asked me to, if they wanted a question from me, my question was always about them. Well, how can I become you, basically? And then they tell me their whole story, and what am I doing? I'm making sure that they see nods, that they see me paying attention, that I'm completely focused on them, that I am oh, I heard that this happened when you did that. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Right.
Or how can I approach that in today's world, and it go into another direction, right? And by doing that, you're going to build a lot more trust with people. And I want you to build that trust with people, because it's kind of one of those things where I had people who thought they knew me, but I had never said a word about myself. if that makes any sense. It don't make any sense at all. But people that talk about themselves to you tend to feel like they know you. When the case is you
Yeah.
have said nothing
Okay.
about yourself, right? And so it's
Right.
one of those things where you're taking that technique to the nth degree and you're using it to help you gain more and help you gain more and help you gain more. There that way you are learning. Okay? Now,
Yes.
in learning, that's the reason why I need you to get with the community of people, right? Because you get with the
Yes.
community of people. The reason why I want you to really focus on the community in the job is because there are things in your job that everybody else don't do.
Right.
And while you're at that job, okay, let me just assume you're a lifer and you're never leaving the job, okay? You want to be able to navigate that job as much as you possibly can. You want to be able to get through all the political landmines so you don't run into as few problems as possible, right? In order to be able to get things through an organization, you have to be able to work in that organization to be able to properly get things through the organization, right? And you need to do a lot of that when you're dealing with teams, especially when you start thinking about things like continuous integration, continuous delivery, and everything else. So I want you to be inside that culture, but I don't want you to forget the outside. Because the one thing that the outside gives you is new ideas that the culture's not thinking of.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
Yes, it does.
you gotta have some tentacles out. I'm not saying have a foot out because a foot out normally means you're walking out. I don't want you walking out, right? I want you to
Right.
have some tentacles out of places where you touch, okay? And then I want you to make sure that you just stay connected deeply in the organization. If I was you, I would volunteer to try to lead some of the stuff that's there. There's nothing better. I'm telling you, there's nothing
I
better
know.
than being on the
Yes.
inside of something. Okay? So it's just like I would say that the people who volunteer for this show, and I'm gonna have another call going out for volunteers soon, that they learn
Okay.
way more from being on the inside of this show than people who are actually just listening to the show.
Yep.
They learn way more. Okay, and it's not that they learn
That,
more about me. It's just in general we go through more stuff, right? You know, I'm
uh,
talking to one of the volunteers today, and he's talking through a test, and I'm just like, you need to level up, man. You need to level up, right? And that's all. That's not a conversation I'm having here, right? That's a conversation we had back there, which is a good thing to say to him because now he's thinking, I don't just think I need to be here. I think I need to go here and here next, right? And you're
mm-hmm.
not always going to get that when you're just on the outside. So I don't want you to just be a participant.
Right.
Another piece of advice I want to give you: make sure that you take snapshots of where you're at. Now, what do I mean by that? Do you understand what I mean?
I think so.
What do I mean?
See, like my progression to see where I started to and to see where I'm going.
Yes. I want you to take those
Kind of like
snapshots. Yes.
yeah, kind of like weight loss. You take your snapshot now, and then
Yep.
30 days later, take another one. 30 days
Yep.
later, yeah.
That's what I want you to do. Do you know why I want you to do that?
Um, so I can visually see what you've been telling me I'm able to I can do this. I am going to do this, and because I doubt myself right now, and um,
Because I want you to see that you are doing it.
oh, okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
So think about
That
it.
makes sense.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to this again. December, there was a letter that you sent me, right?
Yes, sir.
Where was you at in December? You wasn't here.
Yep,
You
yep,
understand? You came to
yep,
4 days worth of classes in a row. You wasn't
yep.
here. Now you are saying to me that you are on a Scrum team, working in a Scrum role.
Kind of still trying, just, tasting it and doing bits and pieces. I'm not the actual main Scrum person, but that is
Doesn't matter. Doesn't
what.
matter. Okay, let me help you understand something. When I started Scrum, what was my job title? What was it? It was product
Count.
product planner. I wasn't the project manager. I wasn't the Scrum master. Let me repeat that. What I was doing was building project plans. That's what I was doing. And I was working with the project manager, and the project manager's like, "We doing Scrum?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, kind of heard about it. I think you're crazy, but I'm down with the program." But I'm working with the guy. That's the guy. You understand?
Okay. Yes.
That sounds similar to me.
Okay. True.
But it is way further than where you were at. I guarantee you,
That's true.
if the you that wrote me a letter was looking at the you right now, would they not be proud?
Yeah. Yes, I would be.
You would be very proud because you've made these steps. And what is it? It's what, two? It's like 2 months since you wrote me that.
I wrote you the letter in classes right after the new year. Yes.
You
The
wrote
first
me the
week of
letter in
January.
December. You wrote me the letter in December, right before the
Correct.
holidays. So let's just
Right.
assume it was the 15th or the 20th, somewhere around that time frame, right?
Correct.
And so we're
Yep.
literally 2 months and a few days in.
Yes.
And you got people at your job that's willing to help you, mentor you, and the job is saying, "Look, we gonna help grow you."
Yes. That's true.
Now you tell me that's not a dream come true. Well, are you trying to tell me that's not a dream come true? Because it sounds like to me that's a dream come true. It sounds like to me you are doing what you dreamt of doing. You said, "I just want a shot." And the company that you're inside of is giving you a shot. Come on now. How can you ask for more than that? It's hard to ask for more than that because they are giving you a shot. Giving you a shot is all you was really asking for. Now, it's your job to take advantage of that opportunity. Now, I want to say this to you because I think this is a really important statement. I think it's a really amazing thing for you to grow inside the company. Do not say to yourself you have to leave the company. I think there's so much value in growing inside of a company. Okay? Because literally
I've been there a long time, so I'm not anticipating going anywhere now.
Okay, so now grow more. Grow to the place where you want to go. And you have a direction, you have a path to get there. Now, I guarantee you're not going to have no problem as long as you continue to learn, take advantage of those learnings, volunteer for some things, show people that you can do it, right? Because that's part of what it's all about, right? And then just keep doing it. But don't forget about you in this process. So now, I have a question for you. This is a crazy question, but I need an answer. Do you have a vision board for you?
Yes, I do.
Great. So that means you have a goal for the end of this year. What's your goal?
I will be the lead Scrum Master on I don't know if it's my team that I'm currently on or another one in IT.
Okay, I see.
Yep.
I see.
Uh-oh. Or maybe even working with.
There we go. Look at this. See this? Look at that. I'm holding you to it.
Okay.
I'm holding you to it, right? Because there's no
Yep.
reason why you can't do it, because you have enough support around you. And literally, when I say to you, I had a guy pop up on my LinkedIn that works there, and I was just like, "Look, I got somebody. I need you to help somebody there." And he was like, "No problem."
Oh, wow.
You know people. What you talking about? You know people.
I I reached out to someone who I didn't realize was doing this role as well, and who's actually in worked with putting the transition guides together for these new roles that everybody's going to be doing. So I wonder if it's him. That'd be great. But it doesn't matter who it is, as long as that's
as long as it's another connection, that's all it is, right?
correct.
And you
Yes.
get as many connections as you can, and you take those connections and you kind of roll. Because here's the deal: most people in those positions have been ambitious and done work to get there, and they like to
Yes.
see other people that are ambitious and willing to do the work to get there as well. And if you can do that and you can show them that, that right there is all most people are willing to ask for. They don't need any more than that. They actually want that. They want that. They want to see that in somebody. They want to see that enthusiasm. I mean, you get me excited. You get me excited because you remind me of me.
Oh.
You understand? You remind me of me.
So I have
Because
hope then. That's great.
so you got to go and make it happen, because understand something. I think I was talking on a podcast, and this will come out at some point, right? And I said, "Have you, I said to the guy, I said, have you ever had that imposter syndrome where you've done this learning, you've tried this thing before, and you walk in the door and you're just not as confident. You're just like, do I really know this? Are they gonna see me who I really am behind all this facade?" Let me tell you a secret.
Hmm.
Every place that I go where I'm brand new, that's how I start off.
Wow.
Now look, don't tell nobody else now. Don't tell nobody
Yeah,
else,
well, I
because
promise.
I will deny it, and I would tell them that my twin said this on this talk show. Because my mother's a twin. I say my twin said this, right? And so for real though, every time I kid you not, every time I walk into a place and it's brand new people, even you know, sometimes I'll start a class, man, and I'll be like, man, why are they here to talk to me? What have I done? Well, why did they even register? They could have chose anybody to register with a class for. Why did they choose me? You know, and so I go through that. I do, but
Well,
that's part of me being.
I verbalized why I picked you in my letter, because it just I I I connected with you. I watched your videos and everything. I just you know
Well,
I just
that's
put it
good.
out there.
You put it
Yep.
out there, and it worked. But now the point that I'm telling you is that the person who you have as your mentor has similar problems that you have. I just have them at a different level. That's all. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, sir. Yes,
So
it does.
you're amazing, and I want you to recognize that you're amazing. And here's the
Oh,
deal. Let me tell you something. Remember in the class I told you, you can't walk on the street and not make me proud of you. And you are making me proud of you. I want you to know that. I want you to recognize
oh,
that. Okay? So don't
thank
think that
you.
you are. And probably you saw my video with Victor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Victor took 18 months before he made the first step like you've already made. He took
Oh,
my class, waited 18 months before he did anything with it. You understand?
mm-hmm.
This is so serious. And he had to come back and take the class again because we do the, we let people come back for free and take the class and everything else. And he came back and took the class and then he took off because he put the effort forth. You're ahead of where he was at. Trust me on that one. So, that being said, how you doing? You feeling good? You all right now?
Yes. And my birthday's on Wednesday, so I'm feeling excellent.
Oh, well, yes. happy early birthday.
Well, thank you.
Celebrations are in order. Don't party too hard, though.
No, I won't. Yeah.
Party as hard as
I'll
you
make
like.
sure. Yeah, just change the new mask or something. That's about it.
I understand. Well, hopefully this was helpful for you.
Very helpful.
I know you will be back on the journey. And here's the deal. Yes. I've had many people say that they liked the last time that you was on. So I want you to come back often. The reason why I want you to come back often is because you're not the only one.
Yep. Okay.
There are a bunch of people that look at this, and trust me, we do it live on this night. But then I have a lot of people that say to me, I won't be there live, but I will watch it during the week. Yeah. And they're going to look at you and they're going to be like, I feel inspired. So you are inspiring way more people than what you think.
Oh, wow. That makes me feel even better. Thank you. Thank you to everybody.
No problem. So connect with me. Send me an email. You got my email, so send me an email.
Yes.
Okay? And I'll need to make sure that I kind of connect you. Okay?
Yeah. Yes.
All right,
I'll send it, and hopefully I'll see you Wednesday, maybe.
Okay. All right. There you go. All right. Have a good one, okay?
Bye.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So we're going to take one more because we've been here for a while. So I'm going to take one more here. I know you too. How are you?
Oh, I'm so nervous. Close the door so I don't hear the background.
Well, you're live now. Can you hear me? Fatima, you're live. You're there? You're live.
Hi, you're live. Here. Oh, hi. I'm watching you on YouTube.
No, don't watch me on YouTube. Turn YouTube down because YouTube is 30 seconds behind. At least.
Okay.
So don't do that. Don't pay attention to YouTube at all. Tell your husband I said hello.
Okay, he's watching me in the other room.
And you tell him that I expect him to be volunteering, not watching. Because he's supposed to be volunteering. So what's going on? Talk to me.
Okay, so I'm on the air. I should ask my question.
You're on the air. You should absolutely ask your question. This is Fatima here. I got a name there on the screen. So what's your question?
Okay, so I thought I was going to go the Scrum Master route. I took your class just so everyone knows. I love it. Highly recommend it. Then there's a company that I'm interested in that has a product owner like position open. I have no connection. I'm going to apply like everyone else. But my question is, how can I use my background as a business owner? And then before that, I was the office coordinator at a school to highlight things as a product owner so that they give me half a chance for an interview and actually do good in the interview. I guess like Malin, my confidence is low, and especially more so. I did take your product owner class, but I just thought I was going the Scrum Master role, but I really want to start at this company and they have this. So
now the first statement I always make is that when you look at your job description and you look at what they're asking for, forget the title product owner for a second. Let's pretend like that doesn't exist. In that job description, are they describing domain knowledge type things that you actually have?
I feel like it. I'm gonna pull it up while I'm talking to you. Hang on. Yes, I feel like they are. And the thing that's throwing me off, though, is that they're a software company, but this product owner is more for their customer service department. So I'm not sure how they're going.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Worry about how you fit into the job description, because the idea is that it doesn't matter that they're going to have you working for a particular department. The department could be called ABC. That doesn't matter. What matters is how your domain knowledge maps up to that job description. Because where you're going to win at, okay, let's talk about losses first. You're going to lose in the experience department. Experience in terms of Scrum and product owner. So let's not worry about that part. But the question becomes from what you've been doing in the past already, because you got a whole career already that you've already had, right? So now what can I take from that past career and use to help push me forward as someone that they're willing to interview? Because what you want to be able to do is get to the interview. If you get to the interview, you can convince them the rest of the way. So a good example, a lot of times my first career moves were basically insurance company, financial services company, and they're always tied together, then to an insurance/finance company. That was my jump. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did I do any insurance? Did I do any finance stuff? No. But what a lot of organizations like to do is to make sure that they bring in people who have something similar to what they're looking for, something that maps to what they're looking for. And that's the reason why I want you to focus on your domain knowledge match to what they're asking for in terms of domain knowledge. Does that make sense? So you know what your experience is. Bam. Now, what does that say? How do you map bullet item by bullet item by bullet item that they're looking for? Does that make sense? And so I want you to really do that. And then what I want you to do in addition to that is write them a cover letter. Okay? Now, I'm saying this because the cover letter is going to help you to stand out. Okay? Now, if I'm correct, you know the name Signo?
No.
Did you go to the Brandon Land thing?
No, I didn't.
You did.
I wanted.
Okay. All right. So I'm trying to think how I can connect you with that. I want you to be able to get past the actual machines that recruiters actually use. Okay. So I am going to, send me an email about Brandon Land, and we will see if they have another one coming up. I don't know. I don't think they had anything coming up really, really soon. But if they have another one of those things come up, I want you to connect with them because did your husband go?
I was wondering about that. I don't
Verify
know.
if he went because I sent it out to everybody, right? But the idea is that there are ways to get past the computers and stuff like that so that you can make sure that you're not, like, for example, don't use any special characters in your resume. No lines going across, none of that dotted stuff. Don't use any special characters whatsoever because when you do that, it kind of doesn't pull in all the information. So that would be an example of something that I'm talking about, right? It does mean that your resume may be a bit plain, but when you use special characters, it just kind of throws the computer off because special characters just do that. So it's things like that that will be helpful for you. So I want you to just literally do a map of your experience with bullet by bullet the job. Okay? Now, that doesn't guarantee you're going to get it, but here's the way I want you to think about every job. Practice to the next one. Does that make sense? Because what's going to happen is, like, I always consider my first interview to be a practice interview. Why? Because I want to get at the end of that interview and ask them some questions. And one of the questions I want to ask them is, what's the best person for this job? So I can understand what my gaps were and try to see if they'll answer some questions about either why I'm going to get the job or why I'm not going to get the job. You understand where I'm coming from? Because all I'm really doing is asking you to do a retrospective on them. That's it. To almost do a review or retrospective on them to get feedback from them directly. Now, in terms of your resume, you do that match for match and add a cover letter to that. Now, even though that might not be the position for you, they may save you for another position inside the organization. Now, then what I would do is I would start looking for other jobs of similar title, similar experience, similar descriptions, and start applying for those as well. Because what happens is, once you have a company in one area that's doing it, it's likely several companies that's in that same line of business is doing similar stuff. Because they have this tendency to jump into Agile and Scrum around the same time, within few months of each other sometimes. And so you might have a lead in for other places. So I want you to start thinking about that and start lining them up. And if there are jobs that you really, really want to go after, you start looking at a little bit of history, adding a few things in about that. Because some of those people that read those things are just like, okay, that's a good thing. But just really take a real close look at it. Now, am I going to say spend days and days and days on this? No, no, no. Am I going to say make this the only thing you go after? No, 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 no. What I am saying is practice for the next one if you don't get it. Because your main objective is to get an interview. If you get the interview, then it's about closing the deal. And most of the time, they don't necessarily they want everybody to have the right experience. Okay, let's assume they want you to have what everybody else has when they bring you in. But it's going to be a fit into the company that's going to take you the rest of the way. That's really the thing that most people are looking for. Do you fit on my team? Just because they say no, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means you may not have been the right fit. Okay? So, perfect example. At Bearded Eagle, we needed to hire an instructional designer at one point. Man, we had people with excellent resumes. When it came down to the last two people, it boiled down to fit more than anything else. Because once the deck is the same, then it's whether I can work with you.
Yeah.
Right? And so you want to get to the place where you get amongst and be at the same and then woo them with how you fit. And the other things that you've done, because you've done coaching and stuff like that before, right? You've done that kind of stuff, right? And so those other tricks that you have in the bag can get you across the fit line. You just need to get here. You need to get in there so you can get the interview. Once you get the interview, then it's just fitting. Once you fit, you're kind of solid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so just remember that it's not about how many that says no. It's about getting one to say yes.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And a lot of times it's a timing and numbers game. It really, really is. But you get yourself going in there, get yourself right there, and then fit. Fit, fit, fit. And you've done one of the major right things already. Certifying up during COVID is one of the best things to do. Because every job is not coming back the way that it left. They all not coming back. But when they do come back, there's going to be hot competition. And one of the things that's going to be a dividing line in competition is going to be certifications, as well as other things you have available for them. So you're doing the right thing by doing this now, having these things happen now. But I never get my heart. Every time I've gotten my heart set on a particular job, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I'll just be 100%. I didn't get it. Like, I'm like, that's the perfect location. That's the perfect weather. I got this there. They got that there. I'm making plans. I can move over to that apartment. The water's down the street. I can ride my bike there. I got all these plans. And then next thing you know, I don't get it. So don't do all that. Don't do like me. Don't do like me. So the biggest thing is to try to get feedback. To get feedback. To get feedback. If your resume isn't working, then you got to tweak things. And then send me an email, and if I can see if they got another one of these brand and land classes so you can try to get in something like that, that's something else that you really, really want to do, because that will be helpful for you. Okay? Does that make sense?
It does. And I have a question if we have
Yeah.
time.
Go ahead.
Like a follow-up question with this. So if I'm looking at the job description, for example, and it says like just certain things, like you will manage timelines, identify risks, for example. Would I like say how in my business I manage timelines and identified risks? Like is that what I would do? I basically
Yeah, you
take.
can, but because they're asking you, it sounds like a project manager job. That's what it
Does
sounds
it?
like. Yeah.
Mm.
So when people start talking about managing timelines, managing risk, you see the word risk, it is likely associated with project management to some degree. So now you start pulling in your thoughts around project management. They likely, if they're going to have any kind of interview to test your skills out, they're going to pull a project manager in and they're going to start throwing things at you like avoidance, mitigation, those kind of things, right? And so literally when you start seeing things like timelines and risk, it's more around project management versus anything else. So a lot of times what happens in our space is the Scrum folks, especially any process Scrum folks like a Scrum Master, are tightly coupled with the project manager. Tightly, like this. So when I went from State Farm to Capital One, my job title with Capital One was Agile Project Manager. Even though what I majorly did there was Scrum Master, but I had to do these other documents. Like I had to build a project plan. I had to do this design document. I had to do this thing and that thing and that thing. These list of things that they had on their list for me to do. I had to make sure I had this risk register. So literally, when you start seeing words like that, regardless of what the title is, they're going to be putting you towards some project management stuff, even though it may not be titled that way. So just be prepared for that because you likely have done some of that already.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And
Yeah.
if for some reason like this doesn't work out, because again, this is just more about the company and getting in, and because I am certified as a product owner and I like it.
Mm-hmm.
If I decide not to go that route and I decide to go the Scrum Master route, the other question that I had is it impossible to think that I could ever shadow like a Scrum Master because it's a company thing and there's probably like I'm like Malin, like my confidence is just not there, and I'm like, if I could just watch a Scrum Master do their job for like a week or a day, I could say, yeah, I can do that versus like learning textbook like we did. Does that make sense?
Well, what I would say to you is okay, so a few things. One, find a way to do Scrum yourself. You'll learn a lot more by doing it yourself. Okay?
I have been since class.
Okay, great. So now you do that. That's going to teach you a heck of a lot more. The reason why I say that is because you don't know who you're going to be following. I'm going to say, yes, it would be great to be able to follow a Scrum Master any place. Okay? But depending on what day you follow them has a huge impact. When do you want to follow a Scrum Master? Like on days when they're doing sprint planning.
Right.
On days that they have a review or retrospective. That's when you're going to get the major meat out of anything that you're doing. Okay? Now, do companies let people come in and do that? Most don't. Most don't. Because they don't want to let you see the secret sauce, but there's no real secret sauce back there. But they don't want to let you see the secret sauce, right? But there's nothing really secret about it, right? So, come join us for our Wednesday sprint review and sprint retrospectives. Because
I'm
I
there.
try
You
my
just
best.
next
Okay,
to my husband.
Okay, then you're good then. A lot of what we're doing there, if you look at how I'm managing it, like keeping to the timeline is a good example. Our focus is not talking about that stuff that's not focused for this sprint. I'm trying to manage it so and then you're getting some benefit out of seeing what a Scrum Master will be doing in sprint planning, for example, or in a sprint review. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
so I'm doing that, which is modeling the same thing. I also want you to remember that during the class, I did that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, we had a sprint, right? We had a sprint. And you remember, for example, in sprint planning, I say to you, consider capacity. How much time you have available to get work in a sprint. Make sure the team has an understanding of that. Great. Get a sprint goal. Pull from that product backlog to create that sprint backlog. All those things are things that you'll be doing. Think about where you're going. Think about your forecast. Think about where you've been, what you did the last sprint, the prior 2-3 sprints, right? Where you need to go in the future. All that stuff are the same exact things that we would do on the ground inside of an organization. The only difference is we was doing it on the knowledge of Scrum versus some other product. Okay. Now, in terms of organizations allowing that to happen, I just don't see it happening that way. Now, in terms of could I get into an organization entry level and they have a bunch of Scrum Masters working around? If I was you, what I would do is go after a really big company that's doing Scrum. Okay. Not little bitty ones, right? And the reason why I say that is because big companies got money to throw away. And they don't mind people learning under them because they're likely going to pay you less, but they need a body to get the work done. So it's no different than the big accounting firms. They pull a bunch of college students in and then they work them to death. Those college students aren't very knowledgeable, but they work them to death because they need to get the time in to get the billable hours in to get a few things done. So start looking for those bigger companies like the big banks. That's always a good place to go. The big insurance companies, the big gas and oil companies, right? Start looking for these big companies that just got too much money. And they always are doing something. Does that make sense? Yes. And so those are the places. Now, again, here in my career, Allstate, State Farm, Capital One, USAA, Sears. You understand? You see a pattern, right? You see that pattern. Big company, big company, big company, big company, big company, big company. Because at a big company, I can hide a little bit and I'm protected by the system that's around me. And I can take time to actually learn. So I would recommend shooting for a bigger company versus a smaller company, because in a smaller company, they're going to expect you to produce much faster. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. And I like that kind of angle of maybe even opening my horizon to entry level of just getting in with a company and then moving and trying to.
So let me give you the real, right? So State Farm, I was with State Farm for 2 years. I went to Capital One there for 6 months. Left Capital One, went to USA 6 months. Went to Sears 2-3 months. See my pattern? You understand? Because again, I learned what I needed to learn and I moved on. Right? And so there's nothing that stops you from doing that. So that's how I'd be thinking. So if it's me and I'm starting brand new, I am probably going to be looking at big companies where they can give me a little bit more security. I can go down to the gym every day. They're not going to be fussed if I'm not there every single minute, right? So that's how I'm looking. And for a lot of people that I know, they're kind of with the bigger companies, especially if they're kind of newish. So that's what I would be thinking about. Big companies, it's a lot of them there, a lot of Scrum Masters. You're going to be doing Scrum Butt. Yeah. That's okay. Everybody's doing Scrum Butt. And as long as you're fine with that, you'll be good to go.
And would you do it when you're saying the big companies? Would you apply for entry-level Scrum with these big companies, or would you just try to get
anything that gets me in the door? Because the one thing that you can do inside of big companies, well, the two things you can do is move around in big companies based on whatever rules they have in place, and you can leave.
Right.
It's always easier to get a job when you have a job.
Yes.
it just is what it is, right? So just get in, do what you need to do, and make a decision about what you're going to do next, right? So that's how I would approach it. Now, just so everybody on the internet understands, Fatima, she gets a job with you, she's going to be there the next 20 years. She'll be there the next 20 years. Does that make sense? But you understand where I'm coming from. That's how I would approach it. Big company and grow with them. And then you can decide what you want to do, and then you get the benefits and everything else. And those benefits are a plus, right? I mean, they normally will give you fairly decent benefits. You know, and then you'll get vacation and, you know, all those good things that you need to get and not be the focal point. If you don't show up one day, guess what? Everything's not falling apart.
Right.
Make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. It's very comforting because, again, this is not my background, and you know, it's different being out of work for so long and trying to go into it. It's just comforting to know that it doesn't, you know, once I find a job as a product owner or a Scrum Master, it's not the end all be all, that I can actually, I have options, and it's so good to have options.
Don't worry about title. Okay. You know, most people on their LinkedIn profile or their resume, they don't have the exact title that was hired at. They really don't. And not that they're lying, it's just a lot of times it's not descriptive enough. And so don't worry about title. Just worry about getting in someplace, doing a little bit of Scrum, and being able to position it as you choose to. A lot of times for me, my title wasn't anywhere near that, but I found my Scrum niche. You understand? And as long as you can find your Scrum niche, you're fine.
Yeah. Thank you.
That was easy. Fatima, thank you for asking a question. You need something, you know how to reach out to me.
Oh, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Devon.
All right, thank you. You have a good night, okay?
Bye.
Thank you. All right, that was good, y'all. That went longer than was expected, but for everyone that's here, still here, I'm going to say make sure you subscribe, make sure you like those things that I said in the beginning, so thank you. We definitely went longer, but I thought it was worth it going longer. I spent a little bit of extra time with both of them, and I think it's a good thing. I think what we said was helpful, hopefully a little bit inspirational, but on that note, we're going to go ahead and get off, leave now. Thank you for everyone that stayed. I do really appreciate it, and we'll chop this thing up so you all can see it in smaller pieces over the week. On that note, thank you. The month of February is about to be gone. I'll see you next Monday, and we will have more fun. Enjoy.